sunshine. Rise up and unite. Woo! Rise up.
Thank you for being here today, Alex, and on our Success Series podcast. And I wanted to ask you a few questions. It's so funny because obviously you're my daughter and I know you so well, and so the questions are a little more difficult because I already know, but I'm trying to think of things that the listeners would want to hear about you.
Okay.
And so why don't we start with this amazing career you've built for yourself. How did it start and what gave you the courage to begin? Because you've been doing it for 10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Okay. Well, I always liked hair and makeup, so that's why I went to hair school. And then after hair school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I worked in a salon for a little bit. I knew that wasn't for me. So I really enjoyed makeup, and I kind of knew that that industry was beginning to get bigger and bigger. So I started doing makeup on the side. I didn't know exactly what it would turn into, but I always had loved watching YouTube videos. You know that.
You do.
So all
You
my
still
friends were like, hey, you know, you could do this. You could just make videos. At the time, it wasn't really like a career for anyone, but it was a fun hobby. So I was like, yeah, I could do it. So I started making videos here and there while working my job, and then while working doing makeup. And then it kind of just started to get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then I started seeing that other people were doing this as their career. And I just said to myself, I know I can do this. I have good ideas. I have, you know, the opportunity, because working in the industry, I was getting taught all this. I was getting free makeup. I was getting free lessons. I was getting all this stuff given to me that I needed to use outside of just my regular job. I could use it for creating my own business. So I really took that opportunity and started to film as often as I could. I tried to come up with viral videos, and I just went with my gut and what I thought was going to work, and luckily it did. And it really took off. When I decided I really wanted to make it my job, it took about 6 months. So of like really consistent, you know, uploading. And then after that, I think I ended up quitting my full-time job, and I knew I wanted to take this risk and film videos and just share my life on the internet. And it was nothing like it is now. It was just videos, but then it turned into Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and a vlog channel and speaking and all that. And it's a whole industry now.
It is a whole industry. And I think the first step is you had to believe it first, right? You had to believe that you could do it. And once you believed, you made that leap of faith. And I remember the day you came home and said to us, because you were managing Ulta at the time, and you said, I'm going to quit my full-time job and work on YouTube full-time. And what did we say to you?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
But I had a really clear plan, like we were talking about earlier. It wasn't just, okay, let's just try this. It was like, you were very supportive, but it was because you knew that I had those business strengths as well as the creative strengths.
Right.
So I had a little notebook, and it was like, you might remember, it was like gold glitter.
Yes.
And I would write, you know, like my whole business plan. I had all my ideas. I had exactly what I wanted to earn per month in there, and, you know, what I wanted to earn every month going forward and all that. And I just kept everything in that notebook. And I wasn't even like I was writing in it every day or anything, but I would just take it with me everywhere. So I would just it was manifesting.
It was manifesting. Yeah. And I think once you put those ideas on paper, it frees up more room to be more creative. It really does. And I love that you said not only were you creative, but you also had that business sense. And I think that's really key. So what we're focusing on is maybe the 5 or 10 things that you feel really contributed to your success.
Okay.
So could you share a couple of those with us? And I'll ask you some questions as you go through them.
Well, one of the first things was kind of what we were talking about earlier, and that is to have a very clear vision of what you want to do. I don't think it has to be like a specific timeline. It can be, and maybe that might help you manifest it like we were saying, but I just think having a very clear vision of what you want to do to help other people and to, you know, your end goal.
So keeping the end in mind when you're building that clarity?
Yeah, I think so. Because just for me, I always knew that my end goal, whatever it was to be or whatever it was going to be, either way, it was just going to help women to create a life that they love living. So I could do that in a bunch of different ways, and there's always ways I can branch out of that, but I knew that was always my end goal, is to help other women.
Yeah, and you've done a good job with that. Grandma and I were talking when you guys were young, and we kind of grew up in an era where women didn't share their secrets, right? That they kept that to themselves. And you were so generous and open with that, and I think you've taught our generation, and so I love that about you. You've always been so open with this is how I get this work. This is how I do that. So
because there's room for everyone.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of people say they don't know what they want.
Yeah. Who, the viewer?
The viewers, the listeners, they're like, I'm not even sure what I want. And I think sometimes we get caught in that trap of what others want for us. And you've been really good at knowing what you want for you.
Yeah, well, that was actually my other one I was going to say is, I don't think I've ever felt that pressure to conform to what others were doing or what others might think is, a better path for me. I just because it wouldn't work that way. I think you spend most of your life working, so you have to enjoy what you do, regardless of the money or the hours or the vacation, anything like that. You have to really love it.
Right.
And so if you're in a situation where you're not happy, and it might not be leaving your job or starting a new business, but just figuring out what steps can I take to make myself happy in this career.
Yes, I agree with that, because it's just part of life. It becomes part of life.
Yeah.
So we've always looked at it that way, and
you always have fun working.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you do that, so now I'm like, I always want to have fun working.
That's good. Now we're working together.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay, what's your next one?
Okay, I got a couple more. Let's
Okay.
see. Well, one of my other ones, and this is something that I didn't even realize I did until Michael actually pointed it out to me, and he's like, I will never say like, okay, Alex, today you got to get up and film, you got to do this. Like, I'll never have a schedule, because I just kind of have to go off how I'm feeling, because I think it's important to have downtime, whether it's just to get inspiration or, since I'm doing something that I think is creative, I have to always be in that right mindset to work. So if I'm upset about something, I'm not filming. If I'm not feeling good or just anything like that, I have to be in that right mindset to film. But I also have to have been like, just that little bit of downtime helps re-inspire you and like kind of get you creative again. Like whenever we travel or just cooking or working out or just hanging out with the family, I think that inspires you to then be more creative.
Yeah, I think it's important. You have to have that downtime and vacation time, and a lot of times we can get caught up in, well, if I just keep working. But
it doesn't even need to be a week-long vacation. It could just be, an hour at night where you're just, looking at a magazine that you find really interesting, or even for me, something that's inspiring is going and walking around like the furniture store. Yeah. Seriously, just anything that I find pretty or appealing, it's inspiring to me. Like, oh, you know what, this would be good for a video.
Right.
Or just maybe, like you watch, different TV shows, or so do I. Just even like seeing the makeup or the hair on TV shows can inspire me. Just that little bit of downtime. It doesn't have to be some big elaborate thing.
Right.
But just something that you're doing for yourself, it can inspire you to then be more creative in work.
Yes, but on the flip side,
What?
On the flip side, I know you to push even when you don't feel like it.
Well, yeah, and sometimes you have to, because work is work, and sometimes you have to do it when you don't feel like it. But I won't fake it. I'll say, okay, I need 10 minutes to get over whatever I'm upset about and get in a good mood, because they can tell when you're faking it, and I think it's important to just put out positive energy. And even sometimes that's a good thing about editing, is sometimes I'll just have to say something to kind of get it off my chest. And then Michael's like, I'm editing that out. You're not saying that. But it just felt better.
It felt good.
It felt good. Yeah. So I think that's good too. The other thing I wrote down, and I kind of talked about this earlier, is that, my vision was to just always inspire women to live a life they love, but I think this could go for any career, any job, any business, is you always have to see what's in it for others. You always have to give value or give something to the people that you're sharing, your skills with. Because if you're not, and it's just all about you, people can see that right away. Like you said, the viewer, they don't always know what they want, but they know if it's all about you.
They do know that. So can you give us an example of a situation recently where you were thinking it through and you really had to focus on what is this going to do to your subscribers, or how they're going to feel?
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone knows, but I have a little clothing line called Good to Be, and that's something where, mom's repping it today, we really have to think about others, because although Michael and I and our small team are the ones designing it, and maybe we just love something, we have to think, well, will our viewers love this? And, will it be something that they feel comfortable wearing, that they're proud to wear, that they want to invest in, not just something that maybe we like. And that can be really hard when you're designing clothes. Of course, you want to just design what you want to wear,
right?
But you really have to take into account others, and it can be really difficult when, I will always try to just ask our viewers for ideas or just kind of their thoughts. And sometimes, even though the response can be, one way or the other, that's not everyone's opinion. Because not everyone will write in. So even that isn't always the most helpful. So you really just have to kind of take it as a whole.
Yeah.
Because maybe one person said I don't like the color black, but that's just the only person that wrote in.
Right.
So that's something where we just have to we'll go off our sales a lot and see this one really, and that's nice the further you get along, is you can kind of go back and look at your analytics, whether it be for sales or anything, and say, okay, this did really well. I think they want to see more of this.
Yeah, that's true. Which there's a lot in that, not just the style, but body shapes, how it fits, different things like that. But it also brings to mind, so you started with your YouTube channel, and then you went into the blog channel, and now you're talking about a clothing line. So I think something that you're really good at is when opportunities are in front of you, you seize those.
Well, yeah, that was my other.
Oh, sorry, I'm stealing it.
And my way wasn't as pretty of saying it, but I was just gonna say I know when to pivot. And I've said that before. It's just you have to see, like you said, see those opportunities and know, okay, this is my chance to pivot a little bit and try this. And if it doesn't work, it's okay, because people get it. This is the internet; things come and go all the time. But you have to be willing to take risks, or there's no reward. So we really try to push ourselves to take risks, even if they're small ones, just to see kind of how it goes. And for example, with Good to Be, started out, we knew we wanted to create another business. We thought, okay, we've got all these women that we're trying to inspire and kind of create this community. We all like fashion. What can we do? So we thought, oh, of course, a store. So remember, me and you went to that mart in Chicago. We bought all these wholesale clothes. We set up the whole business and everything, and we started, and it was doing great. But it just, something about it didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like it was really creating that community of giving value. Like we were saying, it wasn't like we were inspiring women. It wasn't like we were doing anything different other than just being a store that sells clothes. And although it was making sales, I knew long term it wasn't what I wanted Good to Be. That's why the name is Good to Be. It was meant to inspire women to live a life that they love. So that's why we changed it, and now it's all loungewear that has motivational and inspiring sayings or words or anything like that. We donate to charities every month. We work with local graphic designers and business, men and women, and just really try to make it more of a community and less of that we're just a store that sells clothes. You know what I mean?
Right. And it has transformed quite a bit.
Yeah.
We had all those straw bags and
and our viewers have been okay with that. So I think just because you started somewhere doesn't mean you can't change.
Right. We talked about that. That's so many times people will spend a lot of time trying to make the right decision, and then they end up not making a decision, or they hold themselves back because they made the wrong decision. I love how you said you just pivot, because we're making decisions all day, every day, and there's going to be a lot of wrong ones, and we just have to change the course.
Yeah. Yeah, you do, because, you know, when we, like we were saying earlier, when I started, podcasts weren't even a thing.
Right.
So you have to pivot to keep up, really.
Let me ask you a couple more questions. You know, we're getting close on time. But how are you continually seeking fresh content to make it relevant? I know you said you have your downtime, but what's kind of your thought process as you're creating content? I see that all the time, is like, buy this content calendar, do this, do that.
Yeah.
I think it's a struggle that a lot of people have.
It is, and I think that as women, we can just put way too much pressure on ourselves, and at the end of the day, just put something out there. Just put something out there, and your next one can always be better if you feel like it wasn't your best, because I'm guilty of that. I just won't put up anything if I don't think it's my best. And then sometimes what happens is the ones you do on the fly end up being the best because you're just being yourself.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. But I do think, for me, what I've always done is I envision the person watching is just like me. I envision that they're going through a similar life stage as me, or a life phase. Maybe even if they aren't, maybe they will be, or maybe they have, or it's just something that they find interesting, at least.
Right.
So,
or entertaining.
Yeah. So I really just go off of what I would want to watch. So we recently moved into our new house, and I'm like, I would have, you know, I love watching like HGTV where they're picking up like house hunters. Yeah. So we filmed basically a house hunter series because I thought I would love to see that, especially my favorite YouTuber, kind of their thought process, for sure. So we filmed that, or just, I mean, it can be anything. Recently, I hired a personal stylist to dress me for a week. I've always been interested in that, but I thought only, you know, celebrities do that for red carpets. What if just a normal person did it for their everyday clothes? What would that look like? And so I just try to maybe elevate it a little bit to give someone inspiration, but still be on that relatable level.
Right. I love that.
Yeah. But just whatever I'm interested in is what I make content in. And that's why I had to have that downtime to stay up on my other hobbies. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So you're a young mom, married, successful marriage. How do you balance all that? What's your calendar look like?
Well, that's something I'm not good at. No, I'm good at being a mom and a wife, and I'm not good at like sticking to a calendar.
That's when you go back to just how you feel that day.
I have to, because with the 1-year-old, it's not like we're gonna stick to this timeline.
Right.
You can't really do that. So I just try to have my priorities right, and you know,
be really flexible.
Yeah, family comes first, and then beyond that, I just try to fit it in where I can, and I just try to make it count, make it really valuable. But I do think that, like we had said in the beginning, writing things down can really help, so that you can be present when you're with your family, and then when it's time to work, you've got everything written down, and you can get right back into that mindset and kind of jump in. But something that is a big goal of mine for next year is to hire more people.
Yeah.
So over the past 2 years, we've slowly started hiring more people, and it's not even like they're coming to our house and working with us every day, but just virtual assistants and virtual people that work on the store for us and stuff like that. Not virtual people, but they work virtually for us. You know, that is the only way, because we stay at home with Julian all day, and I like to be present with him. So the only way that I can keep doing that is if I have help for those, you know, tasks that I think don't require me and that someone else could do. And we started doing it a little bit over the past couple of months, and it's already made a big difference. But I think just once you get to that stage, you kind of have to let go a little bit of some even just like paperwork and stuff like that.
Right. I always say you can build a pretty successful business, but to really take it to scale it and take it to the next level, you have to have that support around you, that tribe.
Even just someone to talk to about it and say, you know, like we have a couple people that work on Good to Be With Us, and we'll just have, conference calls a couple times a week where we're just discussing ideas. Like, what do you think about that fit? What do you think about this sale? What do you think about this email that we got from a customer? And just to have someone to talk about it with and kind of bounce ideas off of, besides just Michael and I, it can really be helpful to get some other opinions.
Yeah, I love that. Collaborate with others and get their feeling. One more topic I want to talk about is self-care. You've always really been into that, into eating healthy, and I
Really into myself.
not into yourself, but I can remember your first sleepover as a little girl, and I went to pick you up, and the mom said, "Oh, we ordered pizzas and had chips and pop and all this stuff," and Alex came up to me and said, "Do you have an apple and bottled water?" So you, even at a young age, you just naturally want to take good care of yourself. So how do you keep up with that, with all the demands around you?
That's kind of how I keep up with the other things. Is that I have, to me, it's not even about being healthy, it's just about the routine of it. I really like having something that stays the same every day, because we don't have a schedule, we don't have a calendar, we don't go to an office, but my routine of how I eat or take care of myself can stay the same every day,
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I just find it interesting.
Yeah, you do. You've always enjoyed it.
And
You
I
have
think
a good book on it.
I want to feel good.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can, help others, is if I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
So, and I also think that that's interesting content. And I think if I'm interested in it, other women probably are too. So I like to learn about it.
Absolutely. Has there been a book that's influenced you at all?
Well, that one I got you for Christmas I really like. It's that book by Kelly LeBeck. It's called Body Love. And it's just kind of about, kind of like how you were saying, really just treating your body with care and respect and, being, what's the word, like moderation, If you mess up, you don't even call it a mess up. It's just part of life, But just...
You follow that 80-20 rule pretty close.
Yeah, and I think she mentions that in the book. I forgot because I read it about a year ago, but I just always like to keep it on my counter because it has good recipes. But any book like that, I really like, just books where other women talk about their health journey. I always love books like that. That other one I gave you, that Dr. Nigma.
Oh, yeah.
What was that called?
I'll link it. I'll link it in the
by
description.
Yeah, Dr. Nigma, and she talks about, it's really about how to take care of your skin through what you eat.
And then you could see the trouble spots, like this is sugar,
through wine, sugar, gluten, and dairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about a year ago I cut out, not wine or sugar really, but gluten and dairy. And then, I'm moderate about the other things.
Yeah.
And that's, a huge difference.
One life for the revolution.